Welcome, everyone. How wonderful to be together today in One Mountain, Many Paths, where our mission is what Barbara Marx Hubbard and Dr. Marc Goffney call the planetary awakening in love through unique self-symphony. We are activating a new humanity, and we are awakening as a new species. Homo amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens. As a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, a zendo, no one is excluded, everyone is included, and we come together to attune to the evolutionary impulse awakening within us. Welcome home, everyone. I am Kristina Tahel, the co-executive producer, along with Krista Josepha, Jamie Long, and Jacqueline Clark, and we are so delighted to be together with each and every one of you for our 288th live community broadcast. What a privilege it is to be part of a global community where we contribute to humanity's flourishing. Wow. Use the Zoom and the Facebook chat functions to say hello, to let us know where you're from, to resonate the Dharma, and to write your prayers. On Zoom, do check that your chat setting say everyone so that we can all hear from you. Sign up for and read our weekly emails. There you find our replays, our community activities, our featured videos, our volunteer opportunities, celebrations, inspiration, and more. Care to step into the work and practice of creating the great Homo Amor library? Reach out to me for the holy opportunities. My email is in the chat box now. Study the course First Steps as Homo Amor, beginning on Saturday, May 7th, with myself, David Cicerci, and Jamie Long, by reaching out to Jamie Long, whose email is in the chat box now. You will find these courses, along with many other, on our website, One Mountain, Many Paths, along with books like A Return to Eros, the radical experience of being fully alive, by Dr. Marc Goffney and by Dr. Kristina Kincaid, which is now also on Audible, read brilliantly by Gabrielle Anwar. This radical book is a guide of practice to ever more deeply enter outrageous love's energy that literally drives reality. What to expect today? First, a Dharma recap from myself from last week. Then Dr. Marc Goffney will set our intention. Then David will resonate the evolutionary love code. Then we will step into our evolutionary sermons with Dr. Goffney and sometimes with a piece from Barbara Marx Hubbard. And then we move into meditation to enter prayer. Finally, to close, Krista invites us deeper into community, and then we bring everyone on at the end for our goodbyes and an intimate dance. Marc writes evolutionary love codes. Marc and Barbara studied the codes together, often comparing them to Barbara's own 52 codes for conscious self-evolution. These codes crystallize the new story of humanity, evolving the course of consciousness and culture, which is the source code of love. We have the privilege to be part of the emergence of these first principles and first values. The Dharma gates are open. Every week we are blessed. To serve each other and the evolution of love, our commitment is to the quality that we are communicating, and for each of us to take part in this creative process of articulating a new story for a new humanity. So we consciously decide we won't forcefully try to end at the top of the hour or at a certain time, but promise fullness and explosion, to let magic evolve, to serve the evolutionary process. and we will do our best to end at Pacific time, 11 Pacific time. Of course, if you need to leave early, please do find the replay, and we very much look forward to being with you again next week. I welcome all who are new. We need you. Know that each week is a standalone and every week builds on the week before. One Mountain, Many Paths is radically committed to telling the new universe story. Now, for my recap from last week. Prayer as protest, staying rooted in the field of value in the midst of war. These past weeks in One Mountain, Many Paths have been about radical activism in Aleppo, Ukraine, Ecuador, Libya, Yemen, and Afghanistan, in the United States, France, Belgium, Holland, and China. All are desperate to be loved open. Activism is an utter necessity, an utter given, and in every possible way. There's a kind of deep secular bias, a deep sense of the emptying of the spirit. This rational developmental focus, this meta-modern movement is not actually the nature of reality and denies the depth of reality, of the cosmoerotic universe, of the pulsing, living eros that knows our name and that holds us in our holy and broken hallelujah. So let's find our way. Are we ready to actually evolve the source code of culture and consciousness? That's what we need to do. We need to pray. But what does it mean by prayer? Prayer is an intimate communion between the divine and the human. It is true that human beings participate in divinity. It is no less true that we are held by divinity in every moment. And divinity is the force of eros, always seeking deeper coherence and wider intimacies, from quarks to culture and beyond. We've got to reclaim prayer, to evolve prayer, not the prayer which is the cosmic vending machine God prayer, but the prayer of deep presence, the prayer where outrageous love of reality wells up, and where we pour that love into reality, and where we create a new royal we, a new quality of intimacy that never was or will be ever again, other than in this space between us. At the very core is this understanding that we don't have to be embarrassed to pray. Immanuel Kant said, the modern person is most embarrassed caught praying. Prayer is a realization, like awareness. Prayer is not a dogma. Prayer has got nothing to do with belief. Prayer is actually, at its core, a realization. We realize what the great mystics call Ani I, the first person of the divine, Tat Van Asi, thou art that. It requires to feel it, to explode into it, and to know what it means. It's the realization of apotheosis that the human being realizes that we participate directly in the field of divinity. You don't fall into ecstasy from a dogma. You fall into ecstasy from a realization. God is the infinity of intimacy and is madly reaching for us. God, goddess, is desperately in search of man, woman, but not just man, woman. Goddess is desperately in search of thee, in search of you. Let's protest. And sometimes protest is prayer. We become the divine when we actually feel the divine quality of outrageous love, awake and alive in us. The more all of reality is madly loved open, the more reality moves towards union. Now, I invite us to more deeply enter into the holy and sacred space of one mountain, many paths, and I turn my word to you, beloved Dr. Marc Goffney.
Thank you, Kristina Amlon, and thank you for that absolutely beautiful Dharma recapitulation in what Kristina does, everyone, and it's so beautiful, and I'm in such appreciation. So if we can just in the chat box, just like a big thank you. Like, oh my God, Kristina to hell. She goes to the Dharma from the previous week, right? Which is articulation of dimensions of the new story of the human being, right? The new human and the new humanity, right? We're here to actually invoke the new human and the new humanity. And Kristina weaves together key sentences that we did in a new order, tries to find the jewels and create a new necklace, and creates this continuity of consciousness between weeks and opens our hearts and our minds, right, and our embodiment. So thank you so much, Kristina Tahel, and everybody, happy Easter and happy Passover. And enjoy, right? This is a day of immense joy. And when we have immense joy, we celebrate. So welcome, right, everybody, like welcome, mad welcome to celebration. We're here literally to celebrate together. And I know that this week we didn't focus on a big Easter invitation, which we probably should have, just to remind us that we're in this Easter. But I want to talk today, in some sense about Easter and in some sense about where we are in the world today, where you and I are, about this revolution that we're here to enact, right, and to create, and what this revolution means and what we need to do to get there, right? And about prayer, because this is really the second week we're going to talk about prayer. And as Taheli said in the Dharma recapitulation, prayer is not a dogma. So we talked about last week, prayer is a realization of the essential nature of reality itself. And to live without prayer is to live a life of lonely desperation. And to live with prayer is to be radically empowered, not emasculated, to be radically empowered in a partnership of mad love with she, with the goddess herself, with the infinity of intimacy that knows our name and that turns to us and says, you and me, we are holy Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, the human being, right? The individual human being, the first person of me, the force of reality, the eros that moves through all of reality, the outrageous love that animates reality, third person, and the personhood, the space in between in which we love each other madly, the Holy Trinity, right? The first person of God, the second person of God, the third person of God, the Holy Trinity. This Holy Trinity, which is one. And we're in Easter today, and we're honoring, right, the great Christian tradition, the Christian tradition which is filled with tragedy, which is filled with flaws. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young weren't wrong when they said how many people died in the name of Christ. I can't believe it all. And Sinead O'Connor wasn't completely wrong when she ripped up a picture of the Pope at a particular moment. And she meant that, right, to be ripping up the cruelties that the church wrought. And Voltaire wasn't wrong when he said, remember the cruelties, as the clarion call of the Western Enlightenment. So we understand that. And at the very core of Christianity, in its inner tradition, its animating impulse, right? There's sparks of the sacred, which are unimaginable and beautiful and necessary. Just like at the spark, at the inner core, in the broken vessels of Islam, there are sparks of the sacred. Deep within Judaism, sparks of the sacred. Deep within the Buddhist traditions, with all of their being hijacked for war all through Buddhist history. Nonetheless, sparks of the sacred. And we are gathering from the broken vessels of the great religion, the sparks of the sacred, and returning them to source. and the great myth that Walter Benjamin loved so much, the great myth of Luria. When I say myth, I mean more than true, not less than true, right? It's our job as the new human and the new humanity, as Homo amore, not my friend Yuval Harari's Homo sapiens, who's materialistic and reductive and for whom value is not real, but Homo amore, who stands at the brink of the abyss as we're confronted by catastrophic and existential risk and says, let there be light. Let there be light, because we're going to create and integrate together a new story. And story in the original Hebrew is sapir. And sapir means sapphire. It's the blue light. And the blue light in mysticism is the new story. And indeed, the word sipur in Hebrew, sapphire, sipur, means story. It means the light of the new story. And the light of the new story, right, comes from the integration, right, of the best, most validated, gorgeous insights of pre-modernity, the traditional period, modernity, and post-modernity, which is why when we come together here, friends, in one mountain, whenever we come to, whether it's Ramadan, sometimes it can be a Buddhist holiday, or today, Easter and Passover, right, we focus for a moment on that holy day. And today we're going to focus, and we're going to integrate, right, all of this. We're going to integrate Easter today, right, as we talk about prayer, and we're going to liberate the sparks of the sacred from the broken vessels of the great traditions in order to begin to articulate. Now, hold on to your seat, friends. Can we hold on to our seat for a second? Who's up for holding on to our seat? You got your seat? You got your seat? Okay. In order to articulate, holding on, are we holding on? Hold on. We actually have to articulate not just a new world spirituality, right? Spiritual, but not religious. Got it. Big deal. Huge way of identifying ourselves. Good way of separating ourselves from the broken vessels of the great traditions, right? And from the tragedies of the great traditions with which we began, but it doesn't have enough power. It's too tepid. It's too flaccid, right? It's too impotent, right? We need a word that's more potent. We need to literally reconnect to source. And to reconnect is to religare. To religare. Ligare, the ligaments of reality have been torn apart. And in this moment of collapse of value, we need to open up the eye of value. It's one of our core terms from cosmorotic humanism, which is what we call the new story, the story of Homo amore, the story of the new human and the new humanity. And Barbara Marx Hubbard, I miss you so very, very much. And you're with us every week. And next week, we're going to play a clip from Barbara's, and we're going to try and do at least once or twice a month, right? Or more clips from Barbara, who's so deeply with us in the continuity of consciousness. And she founded One Mountain together. We partnered and founded together. And we need to, and Barbara and I talked all the time about religaring, right? About reconnecting the torn ligaments at this moment of a collapse of value and articulating, and let's give it a name, not just a world spirituality, right? We started the first think tank in 2010, and we called it the Center for World Spirituality, right? And then it evolved to the Center for Integral Wisdom and Office for the Future. Right. And when Barbara passed, she asked us to take over, which we did, the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. Right. There's a lot happening, and come join and be, this is ours. But at the core, let's see if we can jump a step, not just a world spirituality, but are we holding on to our seats now? Okay, here's our seats coming at you. Actually, a world religion. There's actually ground and necessity today for a world religion. And this is a good thing just to hold for a moment, right? At this moment of Easter, as we move from crucifixion, right, to resurrection. A world religion means not a monological religion, which is speaking at you, which tells you every truth. No, it means not the end of diversity. A world religion is a context for our diversity. But a world religion means a shared universal grammar of value, of intrinsic value, out of which we can generate for the first time global coherence. And without global coherence, we can't have a global coordination. Coordination. And a moment in which all of our challenges, those that threaten our very existence, are global, we can't have only local dialects of value. local grammars of value, we will not survive the challenge of this day, the dystopian challenge of existential and catastrophic risk without a universal grammar of value, right? The response to suffering is to evoke a grammar of value which holds Putin and which holds Xi, right? And which we participate in together, which holds Zelensky and holds Biden and demands, right? And demands that we actually meet each other in that grammar of value. And there will be no utopia. There will probably not be a humanity unless we can actually, at this moment where we're all colliding into each other, because there's no more local. We're living in the unbearable intimacy of this one planet. And just like for a country to survive, it needed the organizing fabric of a religion, but we're no longer divided accurately along national, geographic, or country lines, as it were. We're not divided across localized sociocentric or ethnocentric lines. We're one globe. So we need the synagogue of compassion, the church of compassion, the mosque of compassion, the secular humanist center, right, of one love, because it's one love and it's one heart and it's one eros. And that one love and that one heart and that one eros beats in me and beats in thee and beats in we. And that world religion becomes a context for our diversity. So Christianity remains and flourishes and deepens, and Christianity calls itself out on its tragic dimensions and evolves to the next level in the evolution of love, which is Christ consciousness. And in Islam, in all of its different forms, and because it's obviously not homogeneous, resolves its interior horrific, painful, blood-curdling conflicts that have shed so much blood. And Islam becomes, right, Allah Akbar, right, truly for the sake of Allah, right, an evolved expression of love, right, in its most stunning and beautiful sense, right, as, for example, the Sufis embodied Islam. And Judaism evolves, and Tibetan Buddhism evolves, and each remain unique and gorgeous instrumentations of music, intimate configurations, right, of interior, gorgeous value, glory, love, truth, and beauty, right, in the unique self-symphony of spirit. But the score of music, which is the context for our diversity, is a world religion. And so as each religion dies on its cross, the resurrection has to be not just that individual religion. The resurrection has to be literally, and feel into that, the emergence of a world religion, which is a context for our diversity, the score, right, of the unique self-symphony. Can you hear that, friends? Oh my God. So David, brother David Eitan, right? So resonate this code for us, which is, and the evolutionary love codes that we're writing every week these are part of the context. These are part of the new language of world religion. Oh my God. So I'm madly delighted to turn to David Eitan, who's going to resonate this code a couple of times so we can feel it and take this next step in. Thank you, brother. Mwah.
Thank you, Marc. Welcome, everyone. If you're new, the code, as Marc is saying, is actually part of this universal grammar of value. So it actually sets the stage for today's topic and frames the conversation. And if you'll notice, it's also a way in which really every religion can fit into this or sort of align with this code, if you can notice that. So here's this week's evolutionary love code, and let's feel it within ourselves. The God you don't believe in does not exist. God is not only, as she has been described by the great traditions, the infinity of power, but more profoundly, the infinity of intimacy. God is the infinity of intimacy, desiring finitude. Prayer is intimate communion between the divine and the human. It is true that human beings participate in divinity. This is the first person of the divine that lives as us. It is no less true that we are held by divinity in every moment. Every time we fall into she. This is the second person of the divine. Prayer is intimate communion between the infinity of intimacy and the intimacy of finitude. Finally, divinity is the force of eros, always seeking deeper coherence and wider intimacies from quarks to culture and beyond. This is the third person of the divinity. So I'll resonate this again. You can see the first, second, and third person of the divine. The God you don't believe in does not exist. God is not only, as he has been described by the great traditions, the infinity of power, but also more profoundly is the infinity of intimacy. God is the infinity of intimacy, desiring finitude. Prayer is intimate communion between the divine and the human. It is true that human beings participate in divinity as well. This is the first person of the divine that lives as us. It's no less true that we are held by divinity in every moment. Every time we fall into her arms. This is the second person of the divine. Prayer is intimate communion between the infinity of intimacy and the intimacy of finitude. And finally, divinity is the force of eros, always seeking deeper coherence and wider intimacies from quarks to culture and beyond. This is the third person of divinity. So with that, I turn my word back to you, beloved Dr. Marc.
Oh my God. It's so wildly good to be with everyone. And we're going to dive into this source code evolution. And we got to hold, and I want to just do the first practice here, as we've got to hold the thread. It's so easy to forget, right? We're what, 52, 53, 54 days into the Ukraine. And just do a simple pointing out instruction to yourself. For the first day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, you held it. 20 days, we did 4 or 5 full weeks. And I'm holding the Ukraine, not just about the Ukraine, it's about the Ukraine, right? It's about Aleppo, right? It's about Yemen, it's about Afghanistan. It's about every place that people are suffering intensely in the ravages of war. And it's standing also for the gorgeousness, the heroic, beauty, right, of the human spirit. Zelensky gave a beautiful talk. It's in Ukrainian. So I wasn't able to share it. But he basically said, now we love, now we work, now we're grateful, right? Now we listen, right? It's about staying in and staying close. And it's deeper than even that. When Zelensky's in the middle of the horror and intensity of war, he understands something. What he understands is that every second matters. There's no extra gestures. There's no extra energy. Every piece of energy is focused in loving reality open in order to survive, which means in order to live. And in Zelensky's case, in order to have value, triumph, the value of freedom, the value of goodness, the value of truth, the value of dignity. But we need to actually create that energy in order to also make peace. Right? Not just to make war, but to make love and to make peace. And we need to have the energy of what Barbara Marx Hubbard, my beloved wholemate, called a peace room, in which every gesture matters, in which we're self-starting, in which we're actually on the inside of the inside, and we are loving it open in every second. So we're gonna step in now, and we're gonna participate together in this Da Vinci moment. We're in this time between worlds. It's a Da Vinci moment. We're in this Renaissance moment. It's a time between stories, right? And the only way to actually move through this moment, this 11th hour of the human history here on planet Earth, is to actually tell a new story of value, rooted in evolving first values and first principles. And only telling a new story changes the vector. And in that new story, we need everything, right? We need everyone, we need everything. We need the best validated insights of every great period in history woven together, synergized in a new story. And so we're going to talk today. This is part 2. We're going to talk about prayer. We're going to see some clips, the last set of clips from Don't Look Up. And we're going to try and find our way into prayer, okay? In a whole way, kind of moving beyond what we laid down next week. And we're actually going to do a practice, which is, if she's good to us, when I say she, I mean the infinity of intimacy that knows her name. We're going to do a practice where if she's good to us, I want to try and give you, with your permission, right, a direct transmission of the enlightenment of second person realization. And we'll talk about what that means. Okay? Wow. So I want to begin, with your permission, with first person. Okay? Prayer. We're reclaiming prayer. Week 2, we're reclaiming prayer. We're integrating it into the fabric of our reality. And we've talked together based on the great lineage traditions in Kashmir Shaivism and Hebraic wisdom, the Zohar, for example, the 13th century book, which is called the Book of Radiance. It's in one of the really pillars of our system in our world, Kirsten Zohar, right? Her last name, she has 2 last names. One of them is Zohar, Radiance, right? And Kirsten is right with Peter for Easter right now. So Kirsten, we're sending you mad love. This notion of first person, second person, and third person, let's stay close friends, as first principles and first values of reality. That's such a big sentence. First, second, and third person are literally first principles of reality. So what does first person mean? So first person means that you are the source of light, right? That light moves through you, right? That the eros of cosmos lives in you. Stay really close. You're not separate from the field. The field lives, individuates in you. You're a unique individuation beyond your egoic structures. You're a unique individuation of the field. We call that unique self, right? And our sister, Claire Molinaire, who's not with us today, she's on a plane, right, is actually starting a Unique Self Institute, right, as one of the expressions of the center, which is completely dedicated to this realization. So you're the source of light, okay? And the prophet, right, the great prophet, and remember, we're weaving together a new story, so we need to weave in the prophets. We need the poets, and we need the painters, right, and we need the rogues, right, and we need the artists, and we need the scientists, and we need the prophets, right? Prophecy lives in us. Prophecy is the ability to catch the voice of the divine speaking, embracing, moving through me. And so the prophet, and in the sacred text, he writes, Ki imcha, with you is the light. And it goes like this. He says, for with you is the source of light. Ki imcha makor chayim, be'orcha nir'eh or. In your light, we see light. For with you is the source of light. In your light, we see light. And it goes like this. And I want to, with your permission, right, and sing it if there's someone with you, sing it to the person next to you. And I want to invite you to just hear reality singing this to you. This is your first person. This is your unique gift that we desperately need. For with you is the source of light. For with you is the source of light. Ki imcha mekor chawayim be'orcha nir'eh or. For with you he is the source of light. For with you he is the source of light. For with you is the source of light. And if you feel it, right in the chat box, in your light, we see light. Hey, everybody, now we're ready together around the world. Hey, for with you is the source of light. It's you. Hey, for it's you. Hey, for with you is the source of light. Hey, for with you is the source of light. Hey, in your light, we see light. Hey, everybody now around the world. Hey, for with you is the source of light. Hey, for with you is the source of light. Hey, for with you is the source of light. Hey, in your light, we see light. Right? In your light, we see light. So you are the Christed one. You are Jesus the Christ. And if Christianity got one thing wrong, it got the limitation of Jesus to the Christ. Actually, you are the Christ, says the prophet. For with you is the source of light. Right? In your light, we see light. Right? You are an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence, the love light, the love beauty, right? The love desire of the field of infinity. That quite literally, mamash, we say in the original language, mamash, literally, ontologically, for realsies, lives truly in you, as you and through you. And as such, you have an irreducibly unique quality of gorgeous intimacy, a unique taste, a unique gift that you can gift to reality. And I want you to get the ontology of this. This is for real. It's not contrived. This is not made up. Right? This is true. An irreducibly unique gift that reality desperately needs, that only you in that particular way can speak and give into reality in a way that no one else that ever was, is, or will be can possibly do. Now, if you actually get that truth, right, then actually depression recedes, and then actually anxiety abates, then actually the looping into what happened yesterday and yesterday's fallen moments actually relaxes its hold, its grip on your psyche. Right? You actually create a completion and you actually leave yesterday behind. You actually realize that the greatest slave driver is the belief that yesterday determines today. And you step into the full infinity of this moment, which is desperately wanting and needing a divine need. Reality needs your service, needing you to love reality open in only the way that you can do it. For with you is the source of light. In your light, we see light, right? And your story is chapter in verse in the cosmorotic universe. Your amor, your love, and your loves, and your love life, and the personal nature of your particular loves are chapter in verse in the universal love story. You are a story, a chapter in reality, without which the plot line of the cosmos cannot find its direction. That's your first person. But notice, friends, that first person never lives with that second person, right? I don't know, is my friend, I'm going to check, is my friend Helma here? Helma, are you here? I don't know if Helma's here. Shati, I don't know if you know if Helma's here. So I'm going to ask, Helma, are you here? I don't know if Helma's here, my dear friend from Holland, but I want to share with you something that Helma and I were talking about the other day. We were studying, okay? I just want to share with you something. And Helma, this is for you. So Helma's just moved into, and I of course not share anything that's confidential. This is, public information. Helma just moved into a new apartment. which is fantastic, near Utrecht, right, and Holland. So we were talking the other day in a context that we call Holy of Holies, right? One-on-one deep study. Helma and I have been studying together for probably almost a decade. And we were talking about how to decorate the apartment because, we don't just do Aramaic text. We got to decorate apartments. And Helma was having, like I do, like we all do, like a little sad moment. So I said, being, somewhat flip, F-L-I-P, meaning somewhat light, somewhat funny. I mean, it might not have been that funny, but it was my best attempt. But I meant it seriously. I said, Helma, reality loves you so much that reality actually sends you a rabbi, right? A rabbi who's now a post rabbi, or now a rabbi, priest, imam, hanging out, friend, spiritual friend, right? And that person's me, right? To actually meet with you every month for the last decade, to kind of do what we can to kind of be together and to love together and to study together and to find our way together. I said, so, actually, not this, you're not just getting taken care of, you're getting totally taken care of. And as a matter of fact, reality loves you so much that I was actually living, in the Middle East on a particular life trajectory, right? And reality shifted my whole life trajectory. Everyone with me, right? Reality shifted my whole life trajectory. And my entire biography changed in order for me to be able to, go to Salt Lake City for a while with my dear friends, Michael Zimmerman and Diane Hamilton, who's a Zen teacher, and lived there for a couple of years. And then Diane, right, was friends with this guy, Ted, right, who was living in a place called Venwoude, right, in Holland. And Ted was partnered with this woman, Shahat. Right. And so I then came, are we watching this, everybody? Then I just came right to the festival, right? To the first event. There was no festival. We did in 2010. And I remember when Diane and I were sitting in a room, and I remember when Shatu walked in late, right? To kind of say hi to everybody. Right. And I met Helma. And now, wow. Right. So I just want you to notice this. It's so wild and beautiful because this is the way the intimate universe works. And the first person is completely integrated in the second person. So in other words, let's stay close. So all of reality is a love story. And first person means that every person's unique story matters infinitely, right? It matters infinitely, incandescently, right? Unimaginably, right? And any other adjective you can think of, throw in the chat box because I'm out of adjectives. So anyone have any more adjectives in the chat box for how much this matters? Give me some adjectives. Totally. Give me a totally. What else do we got? Urgently, wildly. Help me out. Right, there we go. Exponentially. Thank you. Anybody else? We need a couple more adjectives. So freaking much. There we go. We got chat box. Thank you. When I'm out of a sentence, we're going to have to do this together. And by the way, parentheses for a second, everybody. The chat box matters. When I do dialogues with my friend Andrew Cohen, and Andrew, I love Andrew. He doesn't like people in the chat box. He's trying to concentrate, which I totally honor. That's completely great. That's great. So mad bless that. But here, we love the chat box, okay? So everybody's in together. We're doing this together. We're a unique self symphony. We're here together, right? This is not, right? There's no sage on the stage here, right? We're in this together, okay? So if I'm missing a word, fill it in, okay? Fill it in. Okay, so here we go. Just watch this. This is so crazy beautiful. So Helma has Helma's personal story and trajectory, right? And that matters so much that God's going to take Marc out of Israel to make sure to talk to Helma once a month. But in order for that to happen, Marc has his personal story, his trajectory. And this dude, Ted, who was born to an industrialist family, in Holland, has got his story, right? And his trajectory. Did you begin to get it? And then my friend Diane Musho Hamilton, who's the daughter of a lapsed Mormon, who's a Zen teacher, right? She's got her trajectory. And Mike Zimmerman, who's the Chief Justice of Utah, his trajectory, right? And then Shahat Kortan, right? Kind of her trajectory. And all of those stories have their own independent. We're back in 2010 now, right? We're back in 2010, right? And that's how we come together, right? Because actually, right? Actually, and then there's a man named Willem Reich. I'm just going to kind of just expand the story just for fun. And Willem Reich, has a bunch of students, right? And one of his students starts something called core energetics, right? Perikos is his name. And then Perikos has another student named Stuart, who becomes the head of the Core Energetics Institute. And Stuart and Perikos are the mentors of a woman named Dr. Kristina Kincaid, and then Dr. Kincaid comes up with Stuart for a weekend that we're doing at, Shalom Mountain, which is actually not a Jewish place, but it's called Shalom Mountain, where I've started this wisdom school. And then, and all of a sudden how's this happening? And it's all of these separate stories. Right? Does everyone get that? Right? All of these separate stories are actually individuated stories. First person. These are all first person. Check, this is gorgeous. This is realization. They're all first person. Each of these stories has independent integrity. In each one of these stories, we can say, for with you is the source of light. In your light, we see light. Each of these stories is an infinite, unique self, right? There's Kristina Amelin. There she is, right? Her brother's just been killed in a car accident, right? That's her brother's story. But then that story ripples into her heart and soul. And then it just transfigures her in a certain way that allows her to actually find her way in a way that she might never have done. That doesn't explain the accident. It's just what's true. And she finds her way. And all of a sudden, there she is in Madison, Wisconsin, being this strange attractor of joy and light, right? And David, right? And for each of us, right? So we each have our independent stories. We're each first person, but here's second person. All of our stories are part of this larger love story in which we are all perfect subplots, perfect subplot lines, perfect co-stars in each other's drama and each other's story. In other words, if you connect, just imagine it through this unique self symphony. Literally, we are all co-stars in each other's story. We're all part of the actual thread of each other's story. And so while the stories seem to be independent, they're not. They're actually threaded together, right? And the notion that I'm just living my story, which I go to my therapist and I talk about, and I get in these recursive loops, in which I talk about how I've been victimized again and again and again and again, because I actually don't experience the love intelligence moving through my story, and how my story is actually inter-included and interdigitated literally with all those other stories. That's second person. No story stands alone, right? No story stands alone. There's no person who's a stranger living their own story by themselves. Terry Nelson's story is part of Marc's story, right? Lady Jacqueline's story, right, is part of Terry's story. Jamie's story is part of Sharmila's story, right? Does everyone begin to see, right? And it's, in other words, divinity is the great tailor of Eros. Like divinity is the great tailor of Eros, weaving together the strands, and we are strands. We are irreducibly unique strands. We're strands with infinite dignity. But we are strands in this larger weave, right? And we come together in magnificence when we realize this truth. There's no such thing as Ukraine. Putin was right about that, but there's also no such thing as Russia, right? And as the United States, yes, the strands matter. The strand of Ukraine matters and the strand of Russia matters. But actually what unites us is so much greater than that which divides us. We are weaves in this gorgeous tapestry of Eros, right? Of infinite, outrageous love that actually binds us together. We're one heart. We're one love. No story stands alone. Second person. And that's what second person is. Second person is this realization that we're intimate together, right? It's not just one Jesus Christ, that we are a unique self-symphony of Christ, and we've all been crucified. And who hasn't been crucified? Who hasn't experienced their own crucifixion? Can you tell me that there's one person? And is there one person in this conversation here today? And I want to ask you in the chat box, is there one person here who hasn't been crucified? Who hasn't been betrayed? Who hasn't been hurt? And who hasn't been shattered? Who hasn't cried? Right? And what Easter says is, oh my God, right? Is there one of us? Is there one person like that? Is there one who can claim, let the person step forth now who can claim never to have been crucified, right? We're on our knees together, and we're always on our knees as we, right, before she. And what Easter says is that we're all resurrected together, right? See, no one's ever crucified alone, and no one's ever resurrected alone. We're resurrected when we come together. We're resurrected when we realize that we're actually a unique self-symphony. And that unique self-symphony is held by the common field of value. And the common field of value is value. Shared value creates shared story, which discloses the intimate universe. It's the field of intimacy. So just like God is the field of value, God is the field of intimacy, right? God is ultimate value. Eros, right, is one of God's instantiations in this world. Eros is the instantiation of divinity in all dimensions of reality, moving towards greater wholeness. And that movement has value, right? Value means it's intrinsic. It has purpose. It has intrinsic dignity, intrinsic goodness, intrinsic truth, intrinsic beauty. So God's the field of value, but God's the infinity of value. Right? Value is not socially constructed. Value evolves, but that evolution takes place within the field of value. And the field of value is the field of intimacy. Right? And God is the infinity of intimacy that knows our name. And prayer is when we turn to that second person that lives not only between us, the second person lives not only between us, but the second person is the in-between. It's the space in between each of us and the infinite face of reality that lives not only in us, but holds us, knows our name, caresses us, tenderly strokes our heart, fiercely, right? Loves us open. That's God as the infinity of intimacy. And when you live in the field of value, in the field of the infinity of intimacy, even when the world's blowing up, even when you can't make sense of it all, you know that there's a larger sensuality. There's a larger truth. There's a larger vision. Even as we stand and we are activists and we pour everything we have into feeding every hungry person, into pouring weapons into the Ukraine now, because weapons are tragically necessary to stand against Russia. Right? We stand for value. We stand for the field of value. And we understand that this story is happening in this larger context of a divine embrace that's never missing, that's never absent. That's what prayer means. So I want to look with you. I want to try and reclaim prayer. We're going to look now at 4 clips. Right? And then we're going to end with like a little couple of words, and then we're actually going to go and we're going to pray together. I want to look at 4 clips from that movie, Don't Look Up. These are 4 clips on prayer, right? And Don't Look Up, if you remember, is this movie about existential risk. And this realization that existential risk is real, and the inability of the 2 key figures, DiCaprio, right, and Jennifer Lawrence, are the 2 key figures in the movie, right, Kate and Randall, right, to actually convince a world lost in rivalrous conflict and win-lose metrics and commodification and kind of the cheap thrills and frills of pseudo-eros to actually take existential risk seriously. And there's 4 moments in which prayer comes up in the movie, and it's almost unintended. It's not that the movie makers actually intended to make a statement about prayer. They barely noticed it was there, but there it is. It happens because it's real, because prayer reflects something about the truth of reality. And the truth of reality is that there are first principles and first values, and first principles and first values include first person, second person, and third person. Science is third person, the forces of reality, but not just exterior forces, right? The 4 forces, right? The strong and the weak, nuclear, electromagnetism, and gravity, but the interior forces, the force of eros that drives reality. First person, for with you is the source of light, right? The first person of reality that lives in me, as me, and through me. Second person, all of our stories are speaking to each other. We're always loving each other. We're always part of each other's story, and we're part of the divine story. We're always speaking into that space in between, being held by the infinity of intimacy that knows our name and needs our service. So let's discover prayer again, and let's reweave the source code. I want to look with you. Each one's about 50 seconds. They're short. We're going to look at 4 clips. And the first one is the doctor from the University in Michigan who goes on TV, breaks script, and says, oh my God, let's listen to him. It's the first moment of prayer. Let's take us inside.
But if there's one thing that I pray that all of you hear from what I have just said, is that all of us.
Does everyone get that scene? There he is. He can't get the world to take seriously existential risk. He's on this show with Bree, right, and her partner. whose name escapes me right now. We're going to see them in a couple of minutes, and look how uncomfortable they feel, right? Because they're living in a world of pseudo-eros. They're living in a world of pseudo-intimacy, and prayer is intimate. He says, I pray that we wake up. I pray. And when he says, I pray, why does he say I pray? The DiCaprio figure is not a religious figure, right? Not at all. But he uses the word I pray, and the writers of this movie are not religious. They don't intend religion, but they move to the word prayer because it captures something, right? They are what I sometimes call crypto-normative, meaning there's actually a normativity, meaning there's a sense of normativity means what's truly real upon which we base our lives, but you deny that you actually hold that as a position. So it's crypto, so it's a hidden position. So they're crypto world religion people, right? The writers of this movie, they would tell you that they are, and this movie has been interpreted by many people as being atheistic, but it's not, right? The BBC did a major piece. This movie is a reflection of a kind of, atheism. It's not at all. And of course, atheism itself has its moment, right? The place where the human being has to say, I am God. So it's a beautiful moment. It's a holy moment. It's just far from the whole story. But this movie is actually a crypto world religion moment in which, in order for DiCaprio to express the depth of the reality of this and the depth of this mattering so much, the infinite urgency of this moment, the only thing he can say is, I pray, right? I pray. I invoke cosmos. I invoke the field of cosmos that lives in me. I invoke the infinity of intimacy that knows my name and speaks with me. And there's nothing more tragic than to lose our capacity to touch the field. So I want to show you what it looks like when you lose the capacity to touch the field. Let's look at the second prayer scene coming at you. And this is Jason. This is the president's son, who's this tragic figure in the movie, right? Who always, talks to his mother as the president. His mother, in the end, forgets him when she goes to escape planet Earth. And he's crying out, Mom, Mom. And he's the only one actually who survives the Armageddon. And the first thing that he shouts out in the end is Mom, right? Because when we leave the field of prayer, when we leave the field of value, even the mother-son relationship is broken. And the expression of the tragedy of the breaking of the mother, right? It's what Camus writes in his book, The Stranger, right? Mother died today, or was it yesterday? Which is the existentialist moment in which there is no prayer and there is no value, right? And there is no goodness, truth, and beauty that's real. And so even mother doesn't matter. Mother died today, or was it yesterday? And that's the Jason figure, right? Jason in relationship to his mother, who's the president, right? Let's just take a look at Jason. His mother turns to him right before the launch of an attempted destruction of the asteroid. This is after they've pulled back what would have been an effective way to destroy the asteroid. It was pulled back because Peter Isherwell, who's the head of BASH, who kind of represents the techplex, sees a way to profit from the asteroid and to convert its minerals into, massive wealth. So they pull back an actual, valid and what would have been a successful, coherent attempt to take down the asteroid. And they're now using this, untested technology, which hasn't been subject to appropriate peer review, appropriate testing. And we know it's going to fail, but they don't yet know that. And his mother turns to him, the president turns to her son, Jason, and says, hey, would you maybe give us a prayer?
But I also want to give a prayer for stuff. There's dope stuff, like material stuff, like sick apartments and watches and cars and clothes and shit that could all go away. And I don't want to see that stuff go away, so I'm going to say a prayer for that stuff. Amen.
Did you see that look on the president's face at the end of his prayer? Who saw that look? It was this little flip of the camera, right? She's like, all of a sudden she realizes, what have I done? And this is the son that I raised. And it's this tragic moment. And he says, well, I've heard all these prayers for people and I don't really know what those are, but I want to pray for stuff, for dope stuff, for sick apartments and these great watches and mad blessings to the watches and the sick apartments. He can't quite find prayer when you can feel the field of life. He's dissociated. He's disconnected from the field of life. And he's the expression, right, of a collapse of value at the very center, which would allow Peter Isherwell, right, in his rivalrous conflict win-lose dynamic, to actually make a move, right, for the accumulation of power, which literally will cause the annihilation of planet Earth. Wow. So you can't access the field of prayer. Let's look at a third prayer scene. And this is Bree with her co-star. If someone remembers the name, right, of the co-star, right, then let us know. But let's take a look. Okay. All right. So, right, let's take a look at the third mention of prayer. And 1 second before we turn it on, this is literally at the very end of the movie, right? You can feel the rumbles, right? The comet's about to strike, and Bree and her co-star, right, are in this last, bar where there's no one there, Jack, right? Bree and Jack. And this is the last moment. And this is, what are they saying to each other? Let's take a look.
We can fuck or pray or
Talk shit about people.
It's an incredible scene. Does everyone get that scene? There they are, Jack and Bree. The world's about to implode. And friends, in some deep way, just can we open our hearts for a second? Oh my God, we're all sitting at that bar, right? We're all literally sitting at that bar right now. And Jack says we can fuck, right? And Oriana, I'm just reading the text. This is Jack's word. I'm reading the text. I apologize, right? And what he means by that is, he means, in other words, like maybe we can find value there. That would be a moment of value. But Actually, when your sexing is disconnected from the field of value, then it doesn't do anything. Or we can pray. And in the great traditions, we actually say that sexing is prayer and prayer is sexing. So, for example, the swaying in prayer is understood by the master, the Baal Shem Tov of the Hasidic movement. We sway in prayer because we're actually engaged, right, in eros. Right? Prayer is eros, right? Prayer is, right, sexing with reality, with the infinity of intimacy, right? So they go together, but they're disconnected. They can't access the sexing. They can't access prayer. And what does she say? She says, I don't want to, right? I don't want to do sexing, and I don't want to pray. I don't even know what those are now, right? And all I really know how to do, I don't know how to do eros, right? Right? Sexing is eros in its deepest place, and prayer is eros. It's the field of infinity of intimacy and the conversation in that field. But she doesn't know how to do eros. We've lost our access to eros, so we do pseudo eros, meaning let's drink and talk shit about people, meaning let's place people outside the circle to give ourselves an illusion that we're inside the circle. That's called pseudo eros. That's all I can do in this moment. I can't find prayer. Here's the last scene. Okay, let's look at prayer. Here we go. Okay. Right, here we go. Okay, here we go. Right, oh my God. Last scene. Take it slow. Take us inside. But before we start, give us 1 second before we start. I apologize, 1 second. So I apologize. They've all gathered together, all the key figures in the movie, right? All the people have actually tried to warn reality. And there's been betrayals between them, Randall and his wife, and they found their way back after the betrayals, and they've learned to love each other. And then there's this young man, right, who falls in love with Jennifer Lawrence, right, who's kind of this street kid, and now they've kind of fallen in love with each other in the last moments of time, and the kids and everyone's gathered around literally for the Last Supper. And it wasn't intentionally done this way, but actually this is a Last Supper moment. Right? This is a crucifixion moment. Here we are on Easter. This is the Last Supper enacted unconsciously by the expressions of media. This is a Last Supper scene. This is an Easter scene, a Last Supper scene. This is a crucifixion scene. This is when reality itself gets crucified. And what do you do when you get crucified? And what do you pray? And what's the text of the prayer? We're going to start it from the beginning. Easter scene, crucifixion scene, right? Prayer scene, our fourth prayer scene. Take us inside.
Dearest Father and Almighty Creator, most of all, Lord, we ask for your love to soothe us through these dark times. Amen.
Amen.
So friends, what happens in this last scene? We're at the Last Supper, and culture didn't even notice that it just wrote a new Last Supper scene, right? Wow. And what happens? Literally, as the meteor is hurling towards planet Earth, he says, I got this. Right? This young man, we learned earlier in the movie, grew up, he tells Jennifer Lawrence right before they make love, he grew up in an evangelical household and it didn't work for him. But he said, but I found my own way there. And so he says, I got this. I got this. Right? And he prays, right? And what does he say in the prayer? Right? He says in the prayer, right? Most of all, we ask for your love. Right? That's the knowing that love is not ordinary love. Love's not a social construction of reality. My dear friend, Kathy Brownback, right? We were studying the other week. We've been studying for a decade or so. And she shared with me that the secondary school, one of the elite private schools in the Western world at which she taught and was, dean of students for 30 years. She would talk to her colleagues and she was telling the story of one colleague, a leading figure teacher in the school who said, love's not real. Love's something we created. It's a social construction, right? We made it up. Can you imagine? Right? What a tragic belief. And of course, this teacher himself, and the beauty of this teacher's life who said this, right? His own actions belied the words that he spoke. Right? Love is real. The one heart, the one love, the one eros at the very center of cosmos, right? We ask for your love, but your love is not grand out in the sky. It's more personal than that. It's not less personal than that. Third person, all the forces of energy in cosmos. First person that lives in me. Second person is the infinity of personhood. It's not the personal God grand out in the sky. It's the infinite mother, father, the infinite lover, the infinite beloved that knows your name and loves you madly beyond any and all imagination in ways that you can't even believe could be true, right? The infinity of intimacy. Imagine your most intimate moment ever and exponentialize it. We ask for your love, right? We ask for your love, right? That we can walk through this moment, that we can walk through the shadow of the valley of death and know that we're all, every one of us, going to be greeted by death. But the experience of one love tells me that death is a night between 2 days. And just like the death of an individual, even the death of humanity, right, is but a night between the next birth. And that every crucifixion leads to a resurrection. And that there is no ultimate death. And that ultimately we all rise up together. We all rise up together. Can you feel that? Right? We all rise up together and we make fun of the evangelicals. Right? Sometimes for really good reason, because they're holding beliefs sometimes that actually violate science and that are ethnocentric and homophobic and are hugely problematic. So I got that. But remember, we got to integrate everything and everyone. But here's what they got straight. They got straight that actually reality is love. And reality is outrageous love at its very core. And then they got straight, right? That's the spark of the sacred, the spark of light that we liberate from the broken vessels of the great religion. They got straight that death is a night between 2 days, and that death be not proud because we have the joy and the pride and the gay of the pride that we are going to rise up together, that we are going to be resurrected together, and that every one of us who's been crucified will be resurrected, and all of us, even when we're crucified together, we will be resurrected together. And what does Randall Mindy's wife say so, right? When he finishes the prayer, she says, that's beautiful. And then the goddess, in this case played by Jennifer Lawrence, reaches over and kisses him. And it's good. And all obstacles are melted away. Right? And the word is good. And that's what prayer means. That's what prayer means, friends. So I want to invite us all, if we can, for a moment, right, to pray. Right, to pray. Let's just pray together. Let's pray together. Let's pray together in a way that we've never prayed before. And I want to play this week for prayer. I want to play a song that we saw 2 weeks ago And it was a song played by a Ukrainian band. And the song's called You're Not My Brother. We're going to tee it up now. You're going to see it in about a second. And this is the Ukrainians, right, who are singing their hearts out, saying to Russia, we can do better. This is not okay. This is not okay. We've got to find our way. And it's a protest song, right? Because prayer is protest against the belief, the false belief, the idolatry that crucifixion is ever final. Prayer means I can stand the few against the many. Prayer means I can stand for the history of value against the history of power, which is abusive. Prayer means that we can actually, for 55 and 56 days, we can actually say no, right, to mother, right, to mother who attempts to smother, to mother who is Putin in all of, right, the devastating smallness, right, and pettiness, right, of that understanding of reality, right? So we're going to play this song, this protest song, as prayer, because that's what prayer is. Prayer is the ultimate protest against anyone who declares the smallness of man and woman, against anyone who declares that love's not real, right? Even in the face of ultimate destruction, the goddess kisses, and the goddess kiss is received, and beauty is there, and beauty transcends death, and the continuity of consciousness is real, and every moment matters, and every gesture, and every prayer. So we're going to just listen to this protest song as prayer, and we're going to come back in the chat box for the last minute and pray, and Krista's going to close us. So let's take us into this prayer as protest. They don't think they're praying, but this song is all prayer. Sometimes, my friends, right, and Angus, you're right, sometimes prayers are broken, and in prayer, in the end, has to include everyone, and there's moments when prayers, right, and feel into this with me. You feel the huge power of those hearts, and you feel the power, right, of the yearning and the power of the standing for value and the tragedy of the words, which is what Angus pointed out beautifully in the chat box, right? Oh my God, right? Right, of course, right? And I want to just feel this together, friends, right? When my parents, not my grandparents, my parents, and in so much of my family, right, the overwhelming majority of my family was killed in the Holocaust. My parents both survived. And I grew up on stories of the concentration camps and the prayers of the concentration camps. And the prayers were against the Nazis, right? And for my parents, Nazis and Germans were the same thing. There was no distinction, right? And we get to be reborn. And one of my closest students and colleagues, right, who's holding a huge piece of our center is Kirsten, right, who's deep in Germany, right, a fabulous German woman who represents some of the best of what humanity is, right? So yeah, there's moments in time in which prayer itself is broken and tragic. And when you listen to the words of this prayer, you can't help but have your heart ripped apart. And there's moments in time when we pray just to liberate ourselves from the oppressor. And in the end, the oppressor must be liberated from herself, from himself. And we have to all come together. Yeah. Oh my God. So I invite everybody just to pray any prayer. Okay. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to come together this summer and we're going to pray together and we're going to laugh and we're going to dance and we're going to sing. And I think the festival starts. When does the festival start? Right? I don't know when the festival starts. Maybe Krista will tell us or Shahat will. We're going to come together for our mystery school in which we articulate, right, the evolution of love. And we just come together for 7 days in mad celebration, mad study, mad depth, mad laughter, and mad tears. Amen. Right? We are the revolution, friends. We have to be this revolution together, and we have to clarify until we can feel, right, the clear grammar of value, which is the score of the unique self symphony, in which, as Angus said correctly, no one's left out, in which Russia, right, as the tragedy that it is today disappears, but Russians emerge, right, in the great glory of their instrument in the unique self symphony. Oh my God. So let's just read a couple of the prayers. I pray for the liberation of all of the oppressors and all of the oppressed. I pray for all of humanity to remember, right, and to pray intimately, right? Oh my God, right? And I pray, Oriana, that the world is born in the heart of the universe, right? In each one of us, I pray, Taylor, for being a living prayer, right? Right? I pray for all humanity to remember, right? To remember the divine and pray intimately, right? I pray for healing and reweaving and strengthening of the ligaments of humanity, right? Benjamin, Raquel, I pray, right, that reality understands that there's no way to reconcile bombs dropping on people with first values and first principles. That's absolutely true. And as the Dalai Lama said kind of tragically, right? Did we need to go to war against Nazi Germany? We did. And we needed to drop bombs, right? For the sake of the entire story, right? To find its way. And maybe we didn't need to drop all the bombs, but we needed to fight Nazism. And we couldn't have done that with pacifism, right? I pray, David and Kristina, for my heart to be ripped open to one sister and one brotherhood. I pray for my highest power of loving, right? Oh my God, right? I am praying, right? Oh my God, I pray, Ujas, for love, evolution, greater unity, wholeness, right? I am prayer, right? I am outrageous love. And I turn the word Krista is going to close this, and let's give Krista our full mad love, attention, honor. Oh my God, happy Easter, everyone. After every crucifixion, there is resurrection. That's the promise of the one love. It's the promise of the one heart. Take us inside.
Thank you, Dr. Marc Goffney. Thank you all for being here, for sharing your time, your attention, your love. Let's feel together into that power that we hold, of the power of what we created here together today as we were praying with the intimate universe. So imagine what can happen if we together spend 8 full days together, and we pray together, and we dance together, and we study together. And what Marc spoke about today, that each of our stories is a chapter and verse in the universe, a love story. That is going to be the topic of the Outrageous Love Festival. So from all over the world, from every nation, from every culture, from every religion, from all over the world, people are going to come to Europe, a beautiful, beautiful castle in Belgium. And we're going to spend 8 days in this mystery school together. So you absolutely don't want to miss it. I've been there, I think 8 times now, and this is the 10th festival. And it completely changed my life. It gave me purpose. It gave me passion. But most importantly, it gave me a home with us here together in our evolutionary family. So we welcome each other deeply, deeply, deeply to come there. So if you go to outrageouslovefestival.org, I'll show you the website for a moment. That's where you can read about it. And also, of course, if you scroll down, that's where you can buy your tickets. If you're not able to travel to Europe, you can also participate online. So you just go to the website and find out everything you need to know. Of course, if you cannot wait, which I can totally imagine, we also have an online study group happening starting on May 7th, where we're going to study together the online course with Dr. Marc Goffney called Our First Steps as Homo Amor. And this course is actually recorded at one of the previous festivals. So this will also give you a taste of what to expect. We're going to study together as students online starting May 7th. And as a member of One Mountain, you get free access to this course, but also you will get access to 8 other self-study courses. So if you go to our website, onemountainmanypaths.org, and click here on partnership, that's where you can read all about membership. Now, membership starts already from $25 a month because we want to make this new story for the new human and the new humanity available for every human, of course. But we do encourage everyone to give as much as you possibly can so we can spread this message and this story of outrageous love. If you scroll all the way down, you can see which courses are included in your membership. So please sign up now, and I can't wait to meet you inside, to get to know each other, to practice together, to study together, but most importantly, to love each other madly, as we say. Now we're going to dance it out together. So we're going to put on some music. We are the people. We're going to invite everyone to promote as panelists, as it is technically called. So you can turn on your camera, put yourselves on gallery view so we can see each other as we are listening to the music, feeling this energy surging through our body, minds, and hearts. And we celebrate this beautiful, beautiful gathering that we had today. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Kristina, please take us inside with this music.
The streets of Dublin tonight.